is the second part of my big sewing project, and today I will show you how to sew the covers for the stools. First, we have to measure the top part of the stool. Now measure the side of the stool. Now I'm cutting the top piece. To the actual measurements of each side, I will add 10 cm extra for the seam allowance and the hem. To make one cover, we must have one piece for the top and two pieces for the sides, which makes a total of 3 pieces. I'm using sewing chalk to make marks for the side pieces. The width of my fabric roll is 1.40 meters, so I can cut one long piece first, then split it in half to make the sides. Think about how to line up the pieces before cutting them so you don't waste a lot of fabric. Now I'm cutting the narrow piece in half. So we have the sides and the top piece ready. Fold the top piece in half and center it on the stool. Then unfold it so it covers the stool. The right side of the fabric piece must be facing down. I will pin the top piece to the stool to keep it secure. Skip this step if the stool is made of leather, vinyl, or a piece of fabric on which the holes will remain visible. Now take one of the side pieces and fold it in half. Align it with the center of the stool and place a pin to hold it in place. You need to pin only both pieces of fabric, don't push the pin into the stool. The pin must be placed exactly where the seam would be. Now what you need to do is to hold the side piece as straight as possible and continue placing more pins along the seam line. Stretch both pieces very gently while placing the pins. Remember to keep the side piece as straight as possible and pin the top piece to it on all sides. When you reach the corner, you need to make one or several relief cuts on the top piece so you can pin the fabric easily. Make sure there are not any creases and wrinkles on the side piece. Now you can pin the fabric on the left side the same way. Make a relief cut on the other side and place the rest of the pins. Now it should look like this. Now let's attach the other side piece. First move the pins that hold the top piece close to the other side. Make sure there aren't any wrinkles on the top piece. If you're using leather or vinyl, don't use pins because they will leave holes. Now take the second fabric piece, fold it in half and use pins to attach it the same way. After you pin the second side piece, the cover must fit perfectly on the stool. Use sewing chalk to make a line over the pins. The line must be exactly over the original seam on the stool. When you mark the seam line on both sides, very carefully take off the cover from the stool. Don't forget to support me by liking the video. Now you need to sew over the marked line. I will use stitch length 3 to make these seams. I'm using the Teflon presser foot to make it easier for the machine to move the fabric. Now it should look like this. Turn the cover inside out and check that it fits the stool. If everything is okay, you can continue with the next step. On the wrong side, fold both pieces of the fabric so they lay flat and make a top stitch on each side of the main seam. If you don't have a thicker thread for the top stitch, you may thread the needle with 2 threads. Since this is a decorative top stitch, set the stitch length to 5. Now you can start sewing. Use the edge of the presser foot as a guide. It should look like this. Now turn the cover inside out and use pinking shears to cut the excess fabric. If the edges of your fabric tend to fry, use a serger or a zigzag stitch to finish them. This is the back side of my seams. Now put the cover on the stool with the wrong side facing you. Fold the fabric and place pins to mark where the hem should be. I will insert an elastic band into the hem, so make sure your hem is the right side for the elastic band. After you place the pins on all sides of the stool, use sewing chalk to draw a small opening for inserting the elastic band. You may use a magnetic seam guide to help you make the seam straight. This is how the hem should look like. At this point, I will use the pinking shears to remove the excess fabric all around the hem. Now I will stretch the elastic band around the stool to measure how much I need, and I will cut the needed length. Fold the top of the elastic band and use a safety pin to thread it into the hem casing of the cover. Since the elastic band is shorter than the whole length of the hem, you may want to temporarily pin its end close to the hole. After you thread the elastic band, you can attach the second end to the safety pin and test if the cover will fit. If everything is okay, you can sew both ends of the elastic band together. Now stretch the cover to hide the elastic band inside and close the hole by finishing the top stitch. Start sewing 3 to 4 stitches over the end of the previous seam and finish sewing 3 to 4 stitches over the beginning of the previous seam to secure the stitches. It should look like this. And this is what the cover will look like. Now let's try to put it on the stool. I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to tell me, do you like the final result in the comments below. Also make sure to check the links below to see how I will sew the covers for this big L-shaped couch. Have a nice day and see you in my next video.